you're supposed to work out your lower body, too.
Okay, welcome to another video. This one's on single family residential secrets. Basically, I'm going to tell you about what tricks and ways to make money with no money down on single family residence. Of course, you want to get into the commercial real estate where their big money's at, but if you got opportunities around you, which there is ways to make lots of money on single family as well, but not as much. So I'm going to go over the ways. There is actually, not all of them are able to do this with, but there is a lot. There's a big niche. If you actually go look for it, it's quite big, and several people have been doing it. Where you would find these would be any homes for rent, for sale by owners, people going into pre-foreclosure or having lates on the mortgage. New subdivisions have a lot of people that are selling their houses that can't sell them in their new homes because the builders undercutting the price. Condos, the same thing. And owners that have two homes, they can't get rid of the second one. That's pretty big. So what I'm going to talk about is how you're going to buy these things. The first one is if you have these properties, you can do marketing or whatever, find ones that have a need to sell, which is a lot of them, because I mean a lot of them, if you have any marketing at all and they have lates or pre-foreclosure and they cannot even get rid of the property, the owners will actually just let you take over the mortgage, which is called a subject to clause, and you can have an agreement with them and take over the mortgage and have the equity in the property. Sometimes even those deals, even if it has like not that much equity, it's still a good deal because you can turn around and sell it for owner finance with the down payment anywhere from, depends on how much you can get out of them, $5,000 to $10,000, plus the rents can cash flow anywhere from $300 to $500-600 a month. And then when you sell the property to the person with bad credit and their down payment, you're going to sell it for like 25% over market value. So even if the property is like, say, $100,000, you'd sell it for even 120. But if they're making payments and you're cash flowing it even at like $360 a month on top of the payment, which they're going to pay a little more because they're getting to own it, you're talking like $100,000 if they never refinance it. So like $360 a month for 30 years, that's $120,000. So you literally could walk into this property. If the guys, a lot of these places can't sell them because of the things I told you about, or they're late on the mortgage, they're going to go into foreclosure or bankruptcy anyway, so they're going to give it to you. So anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million homes, depending on the property, you would even approach them and pay their back debt on the mortgage. So I mean, some of them, if it's like, you know, even if it was like $15,000 and you give the person a couple thousand, you're in it for $17,000 on like, you know, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 house, and you bought it. And usually when you're doing that, it has always, normally at least by that time, I mean, they've been in it enough to where you have at least, I don't know, just say on the larger ones, you could easily come up with like 50 to 100,000 equity all day long. On the smaller ones, even if you got like $20,000 equity and you just walk into it with like, say, 10,000, even if it needs some work. So you got 10,000, say 10 or 20,000, say 10,000, saving 20,000 equity, and you say you put on 10,000. So there's 10,000 profit. You sell it to our owner finance which is easy because everybody with bad credit wants to do it. So if you put on $10,000 and there's 20,000 equity, so there's even 10,000 equity, there's no equity. So you put on 10,000, even on 100,000, you do owner finance, you sell it, even sell it to somebody for 110,000, 10 more thousand. You get the rent, which you could check the rents in the area and just see if they're going to work. But normally when you're going to do that, the guy's going to have a really decent rate on his mortgage, so it's going to be easy to get a higher rent and cash flow, at least like say 350, 360 a month on this deal. So even if nothing happened, 360 times 30 years, you're talking like 120,000 just cash for doing nothing. So you added 10,000 to it. You got a buyer. Say he puts down 10,000 and you had to come up with 10,000, so you got 10,000 on top of that. You're going to sell for the price. So technically you would get, if you did 30 years on it, 100,000 plus the extra 10. But if you don't, you got the extra 10 in equity plus your cash flow in 360 a month. And even if the person fixes up the property and defaults, you get the property back and you do it again. But normally 10,000, normally on a pre-foreclosure property, that's the most rare scenario. I've never seen one at like only 10,000. Normally it's at minimum at least 20,000 equity. And if it does need some work, you could get into it and do like maybe $5,000 worth of work and you still got $15,000 worth of equity. Or if it's 20,000 equity and the buyer comes up with 10,000, you still got 10,000 equity plus 10,000 on top of the price you're going to sell it. So you're going to get 360 a month. Say he refinances it in 2 years. You just made 360 times 24. So that's 2 years worth of money plus the extra 10 or 20,000 on equity. So you're talking just off worst case scenario. That's 8,000 plus say 20,000 equity. That's like $38,000 for a simple deal that would have gone into foreclosure and the guy would have lost his house anyway, where you got it paid back up and you turned out and you just made $30,000 just by doing that. People don't think this is possible, but I have clients that do this, like that's all they do constantly. It's actually easier than you think because you have so many people with divorces and going to foreclosure and lose their home. I mean, that's like a major thing. And even if you had ads, that's easy to do. But normally it has more equity. So say like a $300,000 house, normally if the person wants out of it, they either have two houses or they want out of it because of divorce, or they want out of it because they're like, I don't know, say 20,000 behind on the mortgage. You're still, even if you put on 20,000, he's going to let you keep the equity. So almost every one of these that go in foreclosure, you have tons of equity, at least 100,000, 50 to 100 normally on a decent sized house. So that's 50 to 100,000. Maybe you got 10,000, you pay up the bill, or 20,000, big deal. You got equity of 100,000. You turn around, seller finance, people with bad credit come up with a cash deposit, and then you get the payment's low, so you're going to check Renometer.com or MLS or Zillow what the common rents are. So you're going to cash flow at least $300 to $500 a month on this deal. Plus you got all that equity, and normally they refinance in like 2 to 3 years anyway. So you're going to write this difference up for the extra 100,000, or you're going to add it to the value, maybe about 15% over market value, even 20% over market value. So you're going to carry a second wrap on the mortgage that's going to be yours at like 10% on top of the normal payment of the loan that he owes of 200,000. So you have like 100,000 at 10%. So like three years down the road, you've got on a normal, I mean 3 years, say 400. I mean, if you have a low payment and your rent between payment and rent, there's always that margin of like $300 to $700. So you got $500 on a $200,000-300,000 house times, 3 years. You're talking $18,000 plus your equity in the house. Plus, when they go for the payoff, when they refinance, there's 10% on the $100,000. That's another, 3 years at 10% on 100. That's like another $30,000. So you just cleared $100,000 not doing crap. And you looked around and you found or advertised or marketed for homes that are wanting to sell or have been in, foreclosure or bankruptcy or whatever. That's actually easier to find than what you believe. I mean, they're out there. So, or if you go looking for the condos, because they can't sell because they're hard to sell, but that's easy to do rent to own, and people all want to do rent to own, or approach a sell by owner, or if they're just straight up rental. I mean, you turn around and you would do a contract of either you just want to take, if you're lucky, you can take over the payments and they want out and they're in a bad situation, or they're just a seller wants to move and they don't want to do that. You could just say, hey, I'll give you a cash offer at a low price, and you write up a contract says I want to buy your property at cash value, and ideally you'd say 30 to 45 days. And when you do that, you're going to wholesale the property. You say, only thing you're going to do on this when you write up the contract is you're going to sign your name and you're going to put and or assigns. So then you do that, or you can straight up tell them you're going to wholesale it. But when you do put and or assigns, you just say, well, I'm going to bring in my cash buyer to buy this thing, my partner, and I'm going to show them the property and we're going to close on the deal. So worst case scenario, say you wait 30 to 45 days and you don't come up with a buyer, which I'm going to tell you how is real easy. Then you would just say, okay, no problem, I couldn't sell it in 30 to 45 days. I'll just have an open-ended contract that says if you sell your property, the contract's null and void, but if I get a buyer, the contract will remain in place. So I think almost every seller will do that because they got nothing to lose. So that's how you wholesale property. Wholesale is actually really big. Wholesale, normally you would find a property that needs work or whatever, you'd raise it by like 10% or 15, maybe add to the value, not much, then you'd sell it to all the fix and flippers. That's one that has decent amount of room on a property that's got issues on it that need work. So the other way to do it would be go to seller and say I want to do a rent with option to own. It's the same thing. You turn around and do it owner finance. But on any of these, the wholesale properties, you wouldn't, instead of wholesaling it, I mean, if you could normally, you would normally, people wholesale properties when it has it's about like 75 LTV or 70, maybe at 80, but anything below 75% LTV, they're going to wholesale it, and everybody's out there wholesaling it. I mean, but it's really about first come, first serve. If you're out there looking for people that want to sell their houses, which is easy for sale by owners because they hate realtors, and you just say, hey, I can sell your house, I can buy your house cash, give them a deal. It's all about negotiation. They're going to be into it, and they want to get out of it. You'd offer them a cash value that's, decent. So like a $100,000 house, you'd say, hey, I'll give you cash of like within 30 days, say 80,000, 85,000. You turn around and wholesale it for, I don't know, 90,000. The better deal you get, the more you can make, but it depends. Normally a cash deal, you'd talk them down at 80,000, then you turn around and sell it for 85 or 90 when it's worth like 100 or more. But for sale by owners, you're going to find the ones that's been on the market for a little while, and you're going to contact them. You can contact them by letter, you can put a card on the door, whatever. That's just how wholesaling works, and wholesaling is big. You can look it up on the internet. There's tons of people that do it. I mean, that's really big for residential. Another example would be like, let's say like a property is like your higher end property, like $300,000 range, and you're gonna do a subject to, and they're late on their payments or whatever, and you want to do a owner finance. You're going to advertise owner finance. You're going to have people out of the woodwork because everybody wants to buy their own home, and they have crappy credit, and everybody runs around with crappy credit, and they think they should never fix it. So you have tons of people with cash that always have crappy credit. So your phone's actually going to ring off the hook, and it's going to be pretty easy. You could get the largest down payment and then work the deal. I mean, I've seen deals of like 300,000 value go with, you know, 350,000 in market value, so with only like 250,000 balance, 200 balance. I mean, all different kinds of things. And I've even seen it where they've done like $20,000 down payments and cashed out, like cash flowed like $600 a month on those properties because, you know, it's low interest rate, low payment, and the rent, standard rent in that area is always like $500-600 more. So you're talking $600 at 2 years. You just made bank, and the $20,000 down payment that covered your down payment, and then you got at least $100,000 in equity. So you just pulled out, like, you know, 600 times 24. There's 14,000 plus 100,000 in equity. And normally, if they actually pull it off, they're going to refinance the loan in maybe, I don't know, 2-3 years. So you got your 10% on the 100,000 equity, which you're going to write up the note on. There's like, you want 3 years at 100,000, that's another 30,000. So you can basically pull off like 50. Well, with the 100,000 in equity, I mean, you usually made 100,000 per deal. I mean, I know some clients, they got doing like 30 to 40 of these things a month. They don't even do much. That's all they do. So you want to wholesale properties basically below 80%, around 75% LTV, maybe that needs repairs or whatever. It's pretty simple. I'm going to put a contract on it, just a basic idea of a contract, what you can use below on the link here for wholesaling, and a contract for basically subject to. And then your owner finances, all standard stuff. I mean, you just have to go out and find it. It's pretty easy to do that. So those are really key, easy ways to get into properties. Another little trick is buying, of course, everybody knows this, foreclosed homes, but most states, or a lot of states, if it's in foreclosure, you want to look for the properties that did previously have a second mortgage, because the second mortgage is wiped off and it already has equity. So you'll go in there and buy this thing super cheap. You already know it has more equity because you already looked it up, and you're finding the ones with second mortgages that are wiped off. And you got to look, and if it's online or you can't see the inside of the property, you're just going to judge by the outside of the yard, the maintenance of the house, and the way that is, that'll determine how good the inside is. But if you get to actually look at the inside, that's a whole nother story. So if you get the property, or if they're still living there and they're going through a foreclosure, you buy it, you get it cheap, you outbid everybody else because you already know it has second mortgage, it's got equity. So you know what you're going to pay. Once you get it, the people are still living there, they haven't moved out. You go in there, you say, hey, I'm going to pay you extra money for your utilities, your appliances and things, so you don't mess up the house. I mean, like a $1 million house, it goes for like $500,000. You walk in and tell these guys you're going to pay them like, you know, $20,000 for all their extra crap, and to leave the thing in a nice shape, and then you're good to go. The another aspect of buying properties also is that if you can get any property, and you just simply look for the properties that are in a decent location, and you change them to commercial, which you can. It may take like 6 or 7 months. I mean, you got a good zoning attorney, you can do this all day long. You're automatically just doubling the price of the property, just doing nothing, and then you just turn around and flip it as commercial property, and those go that goes all the time. Simple. And then the last way to make money on single family, well, there's a couple other ways, but another way to make money on single family residences are all the business owners with terrible credit, run around getting daily pay loans. A lot of them have their mortgages completely paid off. You would loan these type of people like your own money on the first mortgage, taking first lien at like 30% on like 3, 6, 9, 24 months, however long you want to loan it to them, and make your cash back on that. And that's how you can make really good money, 30% on your money every month. And that happens a lot. I mean, I do that. My clients do it. I mean, it's easy. I got people wanting to do it all the time. The way you determine how you're going to make, how much money you make back and what time you're going to double your money is you're going to take, it's called Rule 72. You basically take 72 divided by whatever interest rate you're doing. So like if you did 30%, you'd go 72 divided by 30%, and that's going to tell you how long it takes to double your money back. So that would be like divided by 30, 2 years, 4 months or whatever. Or if you say 15%, 72 divided by 15%, because like 4 years, 8 months. That tells you how long to get your money back. That is another one. Then once you have more cash, you would just straight up loan your own money at like 60. Well, so the 30% mortgages, you're only going to loan at like 50% and less. Then later on, when you get more experience with the real estate and you know how to value it more and you feel more comfortable, and determining who's a good client to lend to, actually, if they're business and they have a good history or track record of being at least financially savvy and be able to take care of things, you would loan out your own money, hard money, up to like 65% onto properties for other people. And you get really good at what you're doing after you've already got in your commercial stuff. You would go ahead and lend your own money out on the commercial stuff. But you have to know what's safe and what's not safe. But yeah, if you stay below 50%, you can target that niche of people with bad credit but have cash. So those are some easy tricks. The subject to is huge. I mean, there's a lot of money in that. This would be second if you're not getting into real estate, commercial real estate. That's where you want to make your most money. You want to start in the commercial real estate. You're going to start looking on CRXI or Zillow or LoopNet, or there is Connected Investor, which has pins, which will give you the owner's phone numbers and things. That is actually a good one. It's like $500 for 3 months or whatever. And look at different places and find them. You have to get in contact with the seller directly and negotiate the deal. Maybe tell them you'll pay them a little more, and boom, you can negotiate it and get in on the deal. There is actually for sale by owners out there, and then there's ones that will do seller finance and also off market. Ideally, your best one is off market, or any of them that are off market. Basically, the property has to have equity, and well, it technically needs to cash flow some. The minimum is it's going to have like a 1.15 debt service coverage. What's that mean? That means that like the net operating income has to cover the debt service or your loan payment by at least 15%. That's your minimum to pull this off to succeed. Now, technically, if you break even, you're fine, because we can refinance it in like 6 months and get on a better term. But that's where you kind of want to look at the numbers. But it doesn't really matter. We can make anything work as long as you really got to get a hold of the seller and get him on board with making alternate funding arrangements. And basically what we would do is refinance his property on a assumable loan, quick claim you onto it, and then you take over it and he walks away. Now, as in the same possibilities for single family as for commercial and other alternative methods would be, he would straight up agree to doing the assumable loan. That's simple and easy. Or he would agree to doing a second mortgage seller carryback, and he carry the second back and say we get anywhere from 65, 80, 90% financing, and he carry back 10%. But if it's off market, you can raise the market value up higher than what it would normally be. And then if you do that transaction, he really walks away with all the money and you end up getting cash out. And say another scenario would be if he's cooperative and he doesn't want to do assumable or the seller carryback, then there's always an option where he would pay the cash down payment for the loan. So if it's 90%, he comes up with the 10% and covers it for you. Or we pull it into like transactional funding and the 10% goes through, the loan closes, you walk in the property with no money down. All these are basically all no money down, and they all work, and it's for people that do work. So if you just take the scenario and the formula and the equations and you run with it, you'll make a lot of money. And you can't tell me that you won't make money, because I know tons of clients that are doing this, that have been doing this and making money. And the commercial real estate, I mean, I've been doing that. I mean, I can't even do it anymore. I've got plenty of properties. I'm trying to show you guys how to do it and walk into the properties. But as far as single family, you have that is a huge niche. And if you're uncomfortable with the commercial real estate and you want to get into simple, easy money, the wholesale properties and the subject to properties, you know, with motivated sellers or finding sellers with a little bit of problem, they're out there. If you want to read more about it, I mean, there is Flip Nick by Reese, Traction by James Clinton, and a Grant Camp. Subject to books are personally pretty good. I haven't read them. I don't need to read them. I've already seen them. But the point is that they'll help you get the framework of what you need to know on how to do the flips and the owner finance and the wholesaling. You're going to flip, you're going to wholesale property, which is going to be flipping it to somebody that does flips, because you don't want to get into it and remodel the whole damn thing and all that stuff. But if you have LTVs below 75%, you'll flip it over to somebody that's going to refinance and flip it. Or you probably structure it where you could do the subject to and then do the owner finance and make the most money. Because if you have a owner finance, it's going to pay you on the down payment, the higher market value, and you're going to cash flow on the monthly the whole time. And even if they default, they fixed up the property during the time it was in there. So you win 4 different ways. I have one guy did a whole square mile of nothing. He's a builder, did every house in the whole area owner finance. Big money. So that's how you do that. That's your residential single family secrets. Pretty much covers it. I mean, there are some properties out there like HUD, FHA, and VA loans that do have assumable loans. I mean, they are out there. Not as many as you used to be, but they're still around. The thing is, it is kind of like Monopoly in a way, because if you have like 4 properties, technically we could do like a 1031 exchange and trade them in on a hotel, motel, or apartment complex as cash down payment. So it's just getting your foot in the door and started. Once you start and realize it, it's not as hard as people think. It's just the fact that most people don't think and they don't do anything. So, but once you get a little bit of cash and you start doing things, you start making more money. So that's really how the single family residentials work. And you get into property, you get in areas like 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600,000. I mean, you find out people are getting divorced, or they're getting foreclosure, they're going bankruptcy. You're going to run into people like that all the time. Or you're going to advertise that you're going to buy houses and everything. And also the wholesale thing, people are like, well, how do I wholesale it? Well, you want to know an easy way to wholesale it? Basically, you could put up a sign, you know, $150,000 house worth for sale for $60,000, $65,000. Your phone will ring off the hook. Or you got like a $300,000 house and you're going to you offer them a low price and they have a little bit of equity, and you say $300,000 house for $200,000, whatever. I mean, that's what you wholesale. You're going to make 10%, but it's volume. So you put a sign out like that, and your phone will ring off the hook. That's how you're going to wholesale. And the wholesale's around, maybe the property's got a little bit of issue, needs a little bit of work, but you got them down to a low price, and it has some value there for somebody that's going to fix it up, and that works. You can also look at, you actually target your clients on, there's another thing called owners.com. Anything that's sale by owners, like I said, the new subdivisions, they can't sell their houses if it has a builder still building, because he's always going to undercut them. The condos, the same thing, because they're hard to sell, but they're easy to do owner finance on and make some money in the cash flow. And then you got tons of, you can look up on MLS or whatever and do a search and find all the owners that have 2 houses. Those people always want to get rid of the second house, and if they have trouble selling it, they're a prime target, and that happens all the time. It's because you have something that you're tired of it, you're just going to give it away, you don't really care. So they're prime targets. Or you can put up a sign that says you buy ugly houses, or you pay cash for houses. It works. Commercial real estate works, but real estate works best and more when you get your credit repaired and we have leverage to do even more things and have more credit. So that is the key. So this is good guidelines. If you haven't got the complete capital to do it yet, but it allows you to get into there. The other last piece of the puzzle, if you do want to walk into something no money down, be it commercial or real estate, residential, you can do a down payment with a partner. You could find an actual partner, and you could partner with them, and you could be the one doing the transaction because you have the knowledge, and have them put down the down payment. Now, technically, legally with the SEC, you'd want to have an accredited investor to cover yourself. But some people don't, and they use family members and things like that, and they do like 10 to 20 or like 100 houses that way with family members after they realize you know what you're doing and you start making a profit. Or you want to have multiple group of investors, several people, which is called a syndicate, and then you'd use them to put the down payment. Now, you would negotiate that you're going to pay them some type of profit or whatever, and then work that out, which some people do that, but that isn't even necessary. But I'm saying that's worst case scenario. The transactions make the deal work, not the fact that you don't have the money. Donald Trump got into all his stuff, even though everybody says he's rich and his dad gave him the money. Well, not technically. Most of his stuff he did with no money down, and it was just getting in the middle of it and pulling the two sides together and working the negotiation. Same with Bill Gates when he came up with selling his Microsoft software to everybody. It's basically getting them all to be competitive, and then you just get in the middle of it, and everybody else in history is the exact same way. But the fact is, you have to start with what you have and work with what you have, and the only limit that says you can't make it any further than what you can make it is your mind. If you actually do it, you'll actually be surprised. So that's it. You have to just get out there and do it. And or build up your credit, get the cash to where you can make things happen and get things into a bigger level. But even if you did this on a small level, like I said, 2 or 3 properties on a 1031, that comes your down payment for a big property. And every deal we're going to do, you're going to pull out like 500,000 to $1 million bucks. You just have to get from step 1 to step 2. So it's not that hard. You just have to go out and do it, and then you're ready to go. So that's it for this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.